Blue Lock just blew my mind, as in this chapter, we see Rin facing off against Loki, but I don't want to spoil that, as instead, we also have a super mind-blowing and insane conversation between Hugo and Isagi, where Isagi is left rethinking everything. Alright, starting off this chapter, also called Natural Born, we start with the text saying, "Finally, they clash head-on, the Japan vs France number 10 showdown. Don't miss this moment of ego." With that, we get back into the game, where we spot a super fired up and ready Rin, whose aura is just going wild around him as he is running with the ball. Up in front of him, it's Loki, who just has a smile on himself, which I always find super funny, as it just feels like he isn't taking it seriously in the slightest. Anyway, we see the ball down on the pitch, but then suddenly it goes right in between Loki's legs, making a nutmeg. By the way, this nutmeg that Rin did looks awfully similar to what Sei did to Rin in the U20 match, and also their flashback, which is a nice touch. But honestly, Rin is really on fire now. And while I would like to continue and say that he goes on and scores, it's not that simple yet, as Loki looks behind him, and then he stomps his foot down into the ground before taking off, and then in the next panel, he is already right by Rin, and is battling with him, still having that cheeky grin on himself, showing that this is basically just kindergarten football for him. Rin, however, isn't smiling in the slightest, as he genuinely looks mad, which rightfully so. But he then kind of stops and slaps away Loki's hand, and they go into this really sick looking stand, off where the air pressure from the two of them even started to send waves. Anyway, Loki right here actually looks a bit lost, but that's when we can see that Rin has spotted a hole in their defense, and there is a line towards the goal. Rin is, of course, able to see it extremely clearly, and he right away gets himself into shooting position and starts to pull his leg back. But Loki is just as fast on it as he locks in, and he has lightning coming from his eyes as he starts to advance towards Rin. Loki is able to somewhat catch up to Rin, and he puts his hand on him to get his center of gravity a bit unbalanced. But even with that, Rin doesn't stop there, as he still gets away with the shot. The shot is actually looking super good until Hugo comes right by and decides to put a stop to the fun, as he makes some sort of karate move as he jumps up into the sky and is able to deflect the ball using his heel. And he has a stone-cold facial expression as he does that and looks right into Rin's face. Rin looks back at him, but this time with a super annoyed face, as he just lets out a sigh as he is able to see the ball going out of bounds. The commentators are loving this though, as we can see them screaming with all that they can and saying that this was so close. They explain that Hugo's super block keeps France from conceding a goal. The Japan fans are in shambles as they are witnessing this, and they can do nothing but just scream. We then move over to our favorite poster boy, Isagi, who takes a deep breath before he lets out a bit of an awkward laugh. He looks at Hugo, who has just gotten back onto the ground, and he wonders to himself if this is even for real. He wonders if it could be that even that just now was all just predicted. Isagi looks genuinely confused and stunned as he thinks that reading Rin's trait of wanting to shoot while colliding, Loki limited the shot course, and then Hugo came in and blocked it. However, Isagi then remembered that it's not just that, but also that the tactics that Blue Lock prepared, as well as all of their individual abilities, everything has been logically understood and grasped, thinking that talents placed in the right place bring out a 100% performance and an aptitude-based elite collective. After that, it gets super dark around Isagi as he starts to dig deeper into his thoughts and wonders to himself if they can even win against France. Just then, when Isagi is in his deepest despair, hey, it's Natsu mid-editing here, and I just wanted to pause the video to ask you to subscribe if you haven't already, and while you're already down there, why not leave a like as well? Hugo decides to invite himself to this conversation, and he says that Blue Lock actually are pretty strong. He then takes his hand through his hair, trying to be that kind of mysterious anime villain type, as he continues and says that if you take the diligent collective-minded culture of Japanese football and mix it with the individualistic philosophy of everyone aiming to be the world's best striker, and create a hybrid team that takes the best of both the collective and the individual. Hugo then goes over to talk about their coach and explains that he is an excellent individual who has made that experiment a success, but he then starts to look serious, and his eyes goes pitch dark as he tells Isagi that this is as far as it goes. He says that it's 66% talent and 33% environment, and the last 1%, it's of course luck. He tells Isagi that these are the ratios of the elements that decide a match, or at least that's what Hugo personally believes. And then in Blue Lock's case, it's a team that's been barely winning by Isagi pulling in that last % of luck, asking if that isn't true. Isagi just looks super confused and mind-blown, but Hugo says that if they won't let a situation where that luck can happen, then this is the ultimate way to crush Blue Lock. Isagi then looks super annoyed as he tells Hugo to just try it and calls him a big talking jerk. However, he kind of fell right into Hugo's trap as he tells him that this quick irritation and snapping back at him is proof that he was in the right spot. Isagi then looks annoyed, as he has just been rage-baited by Hugo to confess it, and after that he decides to just stay silent. Hugo then takes his finger and tells him that on top of all that, his team has a serious Isagi dependency. After that we get this super dope looking panel where Isagi is almost chained to Blue Lock, and Hugo explains that the Japanese team is currently growing on the premise of Isagi's endless new ideas. In other words, paradoxically he is not allowed to stop thinking and evolving. He tells Isagi, with a serious tone, that if Isagi stops growing, then the team will ultimately collapse, telling him that the heavy pressure is creating impatience within him, and that makes him play easy to predict and easy to crush and right. Here he is also referring to when Hugo was able to steal the ball from Isagi. Hugo continues to look intensely at Isagi as he tells him that, besides, at the point where he is feeling pressure in situation he isn't fit to be number one. Hearing this really makes Isagi get into a spiral of destruction, or that's what it looks like, at least as he looks crushed. And Hugo explains that because if he were the number one, then he should be able to joyfully enjoy this moment where he is the center of the world, asking if he isn't right once again. And Hugo does have a lot of merit to what he is saying right here, and with that in the back of our minds, we do know how Isagi has been struggling with the thought of him being number one, and how the burden is lying right on his shoulders. Hugo then points to Loki, and tells Isagi that in that regard, Loki is the perfect fit, saying that he is born with the world's best physical abilities, and never doubting that he will become the world's best striker, continuing to glaze him, and saying that his mind and body are in perfect sync with his aptitude, and that he is a natural-born number one. Hugo isn't done, and far from it, as he reveals that he is going to be the one to produce that, looking right at Isagi and telling him that he is going to see a view that couldn't be reached alone, and that he wants to become the world's number two. And hearing that leaves Isagi actually speechless, which I don't blame him for, because hearing someone say that feels a bit weird. But Hugo tells Isagi that him out of all people should understand. Hugo then starts to burn with aura, as he says that he doesn't mean second place, but that he is instead talking about overseeing and manipulating the organization from the second highest spot, being the one who understands the number one better than anyone else. Basically, just an equal being. After this, we get this honestly mind-blowing and insane-looking panel with Hugo's aura going through the roof, and he looks insane as he tells Isagi to come and be the number two. Hearing this, it makes Isagi's whole world start to freeze as he can't believe what it is that he just heard. Hugo continues to stare him down and tells him that if he lives out his destiny as the number two, then Blue Lock can still become stronger, but if Isagi keeps chasing the dream of becoming the world's number one striker, then Blue Lock will be destroyed. With that, we see Bachira, who is taking the corner kick, and this I'm super excited for as it feels like it has been so long, or if this might even be the first corner kick we have seen. This was something that I wished that they would do more of. However, we then see Loki and Rin both still being at each other's neck. Meanwhile, Karasu is looking super serious and ready to do something big. Meanwhile, Isagi is looking super angry and furious due to what Hugo just said. Anyway, the ending text says, Declaration of Destruction to Blue Lock Japan. How will they oppose the Aptitude Fatalist? The next chapter will be called Time of Awakening, which is just insane, as it pretty much confirms, or hopefully at least, but that someone will awaken in the next chapter. Hopefully, it's of course Isagi, as it would be super dope if he somehow went insane in the next chapter and got his awakening. Also, there is luckily no break next week, so the next chapter will come out as usually. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's quickly talk about Hugo's conversation with Isagi. Now I did find this super interesting, as everything that Hugo told Isagi, it does have some serious merits. Him telling him that he is way better as a number two, which sadly kind of is true, as we have seen Isagi struggling a bit with having the weight and pressure of being the best, and being the one who everyone puts their faith on, and in that perspective I guess that Rin is a more fitted number one. However, I hope to God that Isagi doesn't listen to Hugo, and instead thinks of another way to overcome him, and get out of this slump, which it looks like he is having right now. Because honestly, if Isagi were to switch and instead give up on becoming the number one because he isn't suited for it, then I would personally be so sad as it would feel like such a letdown, and a lot of the values in Blue Lock and what the story is about, I feel like will go away. But that's also why I strongly think that he won't give up and switch up. But please let me know what you guys think, and whether he will switch, or if he will show Hugo, who is the boss, and make him eat his words. Maybe even firing Hugo up himself, and making him rethink his own ideals, and firing him up to wanting to go for the number one spot. Also, what did you guys rate this chapter? Personally, this chapter was great, in my opinion, as I loved what they were talking about and the discussion. So I would honestly give it a straight up 9, but please comment on what you would give it, and also your favorite moment from this chapter. Anyway, if you like Blue Lock and videos like this, then I would highly suggest you subscribe to this channel. And while you are at it, leave a comment and a like, as it helps out with the algorithm a ton. And if you are curious to see another video of mine, then please watch the video that will be popping up on the screen now. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day.